All right, now we're going to talk about run fits in the 4-3 system. This is critically important. We want to stop the run, but with stopping the run, you have to be sound when you stop the run. That's, talking about run fits, who's got what gap, et cetera, et cetera. And there's lots of different things there that we need to discuss. First off is positional run fits. So by position. So first we're going to talk with the defensive linemen, your D-ends, your D-tackles, et cetera. Generally speaking, and everything that I'll say here, this is all camp rules. So when we install this in spring ball, we install this in fall camp. That's what I mean. You have to have a starting point. You can't be him-hawing about, well, we spill the ball, we box the ball here. I think you always have to have a starting point. And then from there, you build. And I think kids can learn that way. You need something to hang your hat on, and then you can adjust from there. So generally speaking, without a doubt, we are a box team. We want to force the ball back inside with our defensive ends. All right, we box the football. Our defensive tackles now, they're inside. They're going to spill the ball. So if they would ever be unblocked, really the only plays would be a wham play, the old fullback trap play where they get unblocked and the guard comes in. We're going to try to spill that ball outside, all right, to our defensive ends who are, again, boxing everything inside. Nonetheless, they want to get vertical and attack. Now, when I say get vertical, it's critical. This isn't, peewee football. I remember back when I was a kid, and you have your old, and just say that's an offensive line right there, and there's your D end, and you tell your ends go up and box, and he literally ran up 5 yards, turned, and turned inside. That's not the technique we use. Okay, box. We want to keep the ball inside of us. We're going to go upfield, but it's all in relation to our key. Back in our alignments section, we talked about our key. Our key for our defensive lineman is the outside shoulder, all right, of their technique. So if it's a tackle per se, I'm going to attack and get vertical, all in relation to him. Now, if he could reach block me, so now that we have to go outside, he could go down block. We're going to go down. All right, if he pass sets me, well, then I'm going. Okay, so always remember that. It's not just go. Coach said go up the – no. It's in relation to who your key is. All right, our defensive ends, they are always C-gap or D-gap players. All right, C-gap or D-gap players, and that can change. But, again, it's usually always one of those two. And our tackles are always either A or B-gap. So if I'm a tackle, if I'm in a 3, I'm a B-gap. If I'm in the nose, I'm in an A-gap. It's very simple that way. We want to play the pass and react to the run. All right, we want to play the pass, attack, get off the ball, get up in your stance, and let's go. Let's have some burst. And then if our tackle down blocks, if we're about to get kicked out, we react to that. All right. And then finally, 2-to-1. This is a very good technique that we use. This is something that we do to maintain our leverage. 2-to-1 with all of our guys, especially our ends. We're going to take and strike. We're going to strike that shoulder, chest and shoulder, 2 hands, right? 2 hands. These are big boys. And then as we engage, we want to engage 2-to-1. All right. Maintain our outside arm and leg free. All right, nice low pad level. That's what 2-to-1 means. You'll hear me refer to that a lot. But again, we're striking with 2. We're going to press off to 1. You never want to stay maintained with 2, especially if you're playing a gap, because that's where the offensive tackles, offensive linemen can grab you in there. And even though the offensive coaches won't tell you they're grabbing, but they're grabbing you. And then, if it doesn't get called, now we're out leveraged to wherever we're supposed to be. All right, linebackers. So we are run-first players, period. Fast flow. So you read run. You see run, you attack. All right, get in the backfield. We want tackle for losses. All right. We talk about apex with our outside backers, right? If you ever remove number 2, we want to apex, and that's kind of coach speak. And what do I mean by that? We barely get wide enough to get a reroute. All right, but never wide enough or too wide to do our job in the run. That's so critical. One of our outside backers will always have an internal gap unless we do something to take that away, which we'll get to later. But point is, if you have a gap and I'm apexed, I better be tight enough that I can play my run fit without worrying about rerouting my receiver. All right. Block destruction. Again, receivers practice blocking every day. We got to practice block destruction. That's collision, rerouting wide receivers, and getting off blocks in space. Today is the age of spread football, throwing the ball on the perimeter, receivers blocking linebackers in space. We got to make that a non-negotiable. They shouldn't be able to do that. We're going to be out more physical than them and be able to get off blocks. As far as our zones we play, we're a matchup zone behind it, and there is a certain area on the field called a no-cover zone, and we'll get to that in a second. Cornerbacks. We put our best cornerback into the boundary. That is usually what offenses try to do. They try to isolate their best receiver. So we're going to put our best cornerback over there. And he's usually not an immediate run player, although he has to have some, courage to get into the run fit. How could he be in the run fit? Well, the number one receiver could go in and crack. If we ask to blitz him, we'll run a number of corner blitzes. If we're playing a cover 2 shell over there, those are some ways that he'll be getting into the run fit a little bit. He'll never have an immediate gap, but he's got to be courageous enough to get into the fit. Crack replace, like I just alluded to, if the receiver goes in and blocks our force player, well, he's got to be able to replace and be the force player. And then finally, cornerbacks, they give the illusion of press all the time. We can press bail, we can play cover 2, and we can corner blitz. All right, our safeties, they must have great eye discipline. All right, we're asking them to make everybody right. We're asking them to be the extra hat in the box. We're asking them to cover the number 2 receiver vertical. And when I say vertical, that's anywhere past 5 yards, a post, a dig, an out, a corner, whatever it is. So they need to have great eye discipline to not get fooled, not look at the eye candy in the backfield, the motion, the play action, all that, and do their job because they are our last line of defense. Quarters is very aggressive, but when you're playing very aggressive, you ask any offensive coach, they love it because they want to be able to take shots. They have the opportunity for big plays if we're not sound. But we're going to be very sound and very disciplined at that position. All right? They got to be able to beat the crack and understand, like I talked about with the corners, crack replace. So if here's the football, I think it's pretty basic, but you have a number 2 receiver here, say a number 1 receiver there. There's your safety, and there's your backer. A lot of times you'll get this number 2 receiver come in and crack that linebacker. If that happens, we need to replace. So we're playing 2 vertical. We're scooch. We get a run read. He goes to crack. We need to be right off his butt, replace him there to be the force defender. All right. Next thing is the hard deck. And I have a nice diagram of this, but there's an area we call the hard deck. It's 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. This is an area that any route below the hard deck, our safeties do not cover. That's for our underneath defenders. Unless that guy's blitzing, which again we'll get into when we get into some of our 5-man pressures. But anything from above the hard deck, that becomes ours as safeties. All right. Versus trips, we cross read. We got a cross read number 3. All right. Versus trips, we cross read number 3. We don't have a 2, but if they go trips in our base quarters, we're going to cross read 3. If 3 is vertical, we have him. If he does anything else, we become what we call a robber. He becomes free. He's an extra hat in the defender. He's helping on, poaching from the front side, or he's doubling on the back side. All right, safeties, you are oftentimes our +1 in the run. See ball, get ball. If you don't have an immediate number 2 threat and they run the ball, go, attack. We put our best safety to the field. He's got to be able to handle 2 vertical, again, which a lot of offenses try to do nowadays. And then finally, great eye discipline, which I kind of mentioned up here. Window dressing or eye candy is again, what all these offense coordinators try to do, when, attacking a defense. Now, some base run fits versus pro. All right. Generally speaking, left, C gap, A gap, B gap. Everything's clean. We're gapped out. Nice 2x10 leverage here. Nice 2x8 leverage here. Everything's nice, pretty picture there. All right. Pretty simple. Here's a good picture of it. All right, what I want you to notice, this is a left call again. The tight end's down the bottom of the screen right here. Left. All right, safety with good outside leverage here, 2x8. All right, he's about 2x9 versus a tight end. All right, but what I want you to notice is our linebackers. I'd be hard-pressed for somebody to tell me, if you had to tell me if this was a run, if this was base defense or if this was a blitz. I think from maybe the untrained eye or even the trained eye, this would look like a blitz. But this is how we teach our linebackers to play. We are playing downhill. The minute they see low hat, all 3 of these linebackers are reading the triangle. Tackles can lie to you. All right? Guards can't. Guard, center, guard. That's what we call the triangle. All right? If they get low hat, we are downhill. And that's kind of the point I want to get right here is, we're going to be downhill. We're going to stop the run. We're going to be physical and be aggressive. All right, run fits versus trio. Trio is two receivers here with their sniffer here, some sort of 3x1. Really doesn't matter if the back is here or back is here. All right, so we got a left call, left, 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 left. So we got our 3-5, shade 5. All right, A gap, B gap. This guy's what we call overlap. Okay, he's overlap. He does not have a gap. All right, so he's apexed. Now he's out here for any of the, play action, RPO, if they want to throw a bubble, if they want to throw a slant behind us, whatever it is, he can hang out here a little bit. He doesn't have to be quick to the run fit. All right, now you have to think about as an offense, what do? These backs are stacked. All right, in my opinion, that's a very, very heavy, same side. They're going to run power, same side power. They could run split zone where these guys all zone this way and he goes across the formation. So that's where your film study comes in and how you want to defend it. But point is, that's a nice, easy, pretty picture of our run fits. Right now, the boundary safety, he does not have a number 2. His number 2 is over here. He's got to cross read that. If H was going to come out and go vertical, he would have to take that. But you and me both know, unless this is, a 4-5, 4-6 guy, it's hard to send somebody vertical from the backfield from that sniffer position because our end's going to come across, likely get a hand on and force him to bubble around, which will buy him time. But nonetheless, if he's vertical, he has him. If he blocks, he comes across the formation, he bubbles, he goes to the flat, then he's our extra hat to do what we want. He can come down in the run fit. Oftentimes, if he comes across, we're reading him. Then we fit down right here for split zone. Everything else is the same. He's out. He's got his 2. He's got his 1. He's got his 1. Here's a good picture of the run fit versus this trio set, which is all the rage. Again, these sniffer sets. All right, now actually to this, we're actually doing the exact opposite. We're playing our strong rotation here, which is still okay. We're just zone here to the field. We're rolling our field safety down, and we're bringing him back in this picture here. But nonetheless, let's focus on the front 7 run fits. All right, C gap, we're set the front right. So he's in a C gap, he's in a 3, he's in a shade, he's in a 5. C gap back there, he's got B gap, he's got A gap. So again, these sniffers, these wings, these extra tight ends always cause a little bit of an issue with your run fits. Are you treating them like tight ends? Or are you treating them like fullbacks? So in this game here in particular, we aligned in a 9 technique like he was a tight end. But we dove him inside, and we call it a spike into the C gap, and then this backer would in turn have the D gap. So they just switched roles right there. All right. 3 technique does a great job here. 22 does a great job of attacking and maintaining, fighting pressure with pressure. 2-1 right there, very good. All right, notice our bandit back here attacks his B gap. Boom, does a good job of blowing up the tackle. So our 5 technique back here. All right, he's getting good hands on, near footing, playing the C gap in case the ball would bounce. And then our Mike right now is downhill in the A gap. Pretty good stuff. All right. Another set that kind of gives you some fits, or at least not fits, but you have to make some adjustments, is when they go 11 personnel. We call it spread. It's tight end, receiver, with 2 receivers over here, 1 back. Okay, so it's a left call. Set the front to the tight end. That's pretty good. All right, he got C gap. He has A gap. All right, he's got an apex. This is where the issues come in. All right, he's got to play the B gap in here. All right, but he's also got to apex and help out on number 2. So again, we always want to err towards stopping the run. So what are some things you can have in your toolbox here to help him out? So right now, snap of the ball, if he reads run, he's got to go. That's his priority. But that's hard. We understand that, especially if the ball's on this hash. All right, and we're apexing really wide here. All right, the one thing we do, we give a spike call. All right, you can call it whatever you want. I've heard it called 9er or 5er before. But we say spike. We're going on our defensive end now. He's going to communicate to him, though. He's going to spike, and he's going to play a heavy technique on that tackle. So basically, if this tackle blocks out, then that end will take the B gap. If this tackle blocks down, then we will play that C gap and make that tackle. We'll play off his butt, and we'll play the B gap from outside of him. There's two ways you can play a gap, whether you get in the gap or whether you put him in the gap. So here's a good clip of it right here. So they started out actually in the set, in the 2x2 pro twin set, whatever you want to call it. And again, this is a trend in football now. They'll put this is like more their fullback H-back body. They want to get you kind of in your spread checks, and then they motion back into what this is basically just 21 personnel pro. All right, and they're going to run old school ISO here. All right, so but again, I want you to look at the linebackers downhill. You tell me, is this a run, or is this a blitz, or is this just run fits? And in our eyes, this is just run fits. It looks like a blitz, but this is the aggressiveness we want to see. Start at the bottom with number 7 here. All right, he's a B-gap player. He's reading, again, this triangle, guard, center, guard. He sees run right now. Boom. He is filling his gap. So I talked about double teams. They're trying to double our shade down here. All right, well, they're too worried about a double team. Well, we have a run-through in the backfield here for a TFL. Same thing with our Mike. He's attacking A-gap right now. Fullback's trying to block him. All right, we like that matchup, even though he kind of lost his feet there. Not too bad. And actually up on the top there, we have a little bit of an error. I don't know if anybody saw that, but he is a C-gap defender. All right, because his tackle steps out here first and then goes, we end up having our 3 technique and our Falcon in the same gap. And I think I have an end zone copy here. So right here, our 3 technique is a B-gap player. Our Falcon's playing the C-gap, and he's playing the D-gap. But you'll see this tackle actually steps here, and our Falcon ends up being in the incorrect gap. But if you remember way back to the beginning, the philosophy of it, we have guys behind you that will make you right. So even though we missed a gap there, our safety's coming down. He's right there to make him right in case the ball would spit through this gap right there. All right. So same thing here. Now this is versus tight end Trey. So 3x1. They took basically that same fullback body, but now he's attached as a tight end. All right, so again, back to our original rules. We're going to set the front to the tight end. So that's a left call. Everything's the same. We line up in a 9, a 3, a shade, a 5. That's all good stuff. But now this Falcon, he is what we call a conflict player. All right, he knows that. If you remember back, we talked about if you don't have a gap, we say solid. We tell our linebackers to tell themselves that. I'm solid, meaning I don't have a gap. So I can hang out here and help out with the RPO. But right now, he is not solid. He is what we call based. So he knows he has the C gap in here. He's got an apex, but he's also got to play the C gap. Very similar to that last situation that we just saw. So what are some answers? And I believe this clip is exactly that. So we stemmed to it late, but disregard that. So here's a tight end, 2 receivers, old school tight end Trey, whatever you want to call it, pistol. They're running stretch outside zone. So based on game plan, our Falcon, our backer here, has the ability to tell this defensive end to spike, right? If he doesn't think he can get into this C gap, well, he can tell the D end to play the C gap, and then he can come up and just play the D gap. It's just a simple gap exchange. But in this game, I don't think we did it because they were an outside zone team, and we didn't think it was a big issue. We could play the C gap because the stretch, the flow is going to come wide. So in this case, we didn't play a spike. He played the D. He was able to come in and play the C gap. So really, really good there by our front side defensive end, setting the edge 2-1. I'd like him to be a little more, have his outside arm free. But the Mike is downhill. Again, we want to be aggressive, get those guys off their paths. Bandit does a good job of beating the tackles block, and again, that's a pretty close to a TFL right there. Good job. Let's look at the nose up top. So right here, he's in a shade or a G. I don't know. I can't tell from the picture, but either way, he's got the A gap. They're stretching away from him. All right, there's his 2. Remember I talked about 2-1? So 2 right there. We wanted to get off and press the 1 to maintain that A gap. He flattens out and is able to get in on the tackle there. So again, pretty good run defense. Similar thing. So this is the exact same picture. But now could see our backer here. He's yelling into him, spike, 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 because he says, Coach told me if this guy's too wide and my apex takes me wider, I can't play the C gap. So now he told him spike. So now he's going to play the D gap, and this defensive end will play the C gap. So we just made a simple gap exchange. So you can see our defensive end there fighting to get in that C gap. Does a good job of it, even though the ball goes away. If this quarterback would happen to pull the ball right there, all right, we got a C gap defender, and then we got him coming down to play the quarterback, the D gap. If for some reason we didn't get there quick enough and this guy was able to come down and crack us, well, there goes your same crack replace rules. And again, we should be in good shape there to tackle him at the line of scrimmage. All right, let's talk up top. So 3-by-1 left call. So we have a 3 technique. We have a shade. We have a 5 playing the B gap. He's playing the A gap. Right now, he's cross-reading this tight end. The tight end, as we saw a minute ago, blocks. So the minute he blocks, there's our extra hat. He's able to come down and be the extra hat in the box. All right, let's look up top. 5 technique. Let's see what happens here. He gets base blocked. Oh, no, that's good. He's actually getting kicked out. So this is a verge. They're almost trying to trap him. This is like a long trap. So we want him to attack. And to be honest, this probably isn't the best. He's probably too far up the field. All right, we want him to be a little tighter. I said attack, but we want to attack our technique. His technique went down, so we need to go down with him as we attack. And that would take, see this air right here? See this space? We don't like that space. Because even though this is a very minimal game of 1 yard or 2 yards, we think we can be better. I love our boundary backer here. Watch this guy fill his gap. He's reading the triangle. He gets a down block right now by both these two. He is downhill. Even though he doesn't quite get a run through, he causes some displacement there and forces that running back to bubble back. All right, ideally here, our mic is a little bit more over the top. We get a guard pull down, down. The minute this guard pulls, all right, he's here. Our mic needs to be right over top of that tackle's block. But nonetheless, again, we're aggressive. We're causing them to get off playing a little bit. We have an extra hat right here to help out in the fit. All right, base fits versus double. So very popular set 10 personnel, 2-by-2. Where you set the front, very critical. I have this drawn up in the middle, so we're going to set it to the back. If this was on a hash, we will always set it to the field. That's a good key to remember because, again, offenses are always trying to put guys in conflict. So you want to be able to control who they're putting in conflict. I always want my boundary backer to be the guy in conflict because he can get there. When the field backer's in conflict, it's very difficult. So in this picture here, left, 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 normally the RPO side is to the back. So that's good. We want to set the front there so he can sit out here and help on this, RPO, whatever's going on out here. But in the picture, you see the conflict defender. Ball's in the middle of the field, 2-by-2. That's that backer to the boundary, which in this case isn't the boundary, it's the middle of the field. So he's got to make a decision. I'm going to apex. And in the picture, I probably don't do it justice. He should probably be a little tighter. But nonetheless, he's got to be in a position where he can play the B gap. If he doesn't think he can get there, maybe these guys line up real wide. This is a common thing. We'll see like a stack real wide. Well, heck, he's either going to say, heck with the stack, and we'll just man up out there, or he could apex here a little bit and give that spike call to this defensive end, and then he plays the C gap. Okay, so a couple different options there. And here's a good picture early on. So this is a left call. All right, so we have our 5, our 3, our shade, our 5. This backer probably should be a little wider. I think we were running a little stunt here. Here we go. We were running a little pirate stunt. So all pirate stunt is we were taking what we call a pirate spike, same deal. We're taking our end, putting him in the gap, and now this backer, whether he was apexed or not, is going to come down and play the C gap. And you can see this is very much game plan based off. This is a very high inside zone team. So we knew we were getting this right here. All right. So we love, anytime you get inside zone at you, we love going opposite the zone. That's a key, very good key to remember. Anytime you get zone blocking, you want to go opposite the zone. All right, go opposite zone. If you go with the zone, so if they're moving this way and we move this way, they're able to wash you. All right, so you look at the bottom of the screen here. We want to go opposite the zone right now. We spike here. That's going to force this guy right now to bounce. And it should bounce to an unblocked linebacker, which it does right there. Just how we drew it up. Now, really good job by our DN getting in that B gap. Notice our Mike, nothing changes. He's an A-gap defender. He is downhill in the backfield. They're trying to double team. There's no such thing as double teams when you play us. All right? That's the beautiful thing about playing so aggressive. If you're looking backside, in case this quarterback would pull it, this is just simple zone read, bubble, RPO. If he pulls it right there, we have our defensive end who's unblocked being red. He's near footing or surfing. He's going to play the inside shoulder of this quarterback if he pulls it. All right? If they get a bubble in our defense, our safety is attacking it. And here goes our quarterback player. All right, if he does pull it. You can see we're in good shape right there all around. Good end zone copy. So again, this is very much based on game plan. All right, he's already in the A gap. This guy's going to spike or pirate in there, and he's going to come right around there. They're just gap exchanging. Nice and tight. Just how we draw it up. All right, versus trips. So trips 3x1. So again, where do we set the front? You remember back, we set the front away from the trips all the time. So right. I'm going to protect the boundary with my 3 technique, and then able to bump my backers to the field. So we have a 5, a 3, a shade, a 5. Our backers, they are bumped now. Why are they bumped? Because there's trips. So they're both in 30s. All right, especially if this guy wants to get real wide. All right, Falcon, normal alignment. He's apex. He's overlap. He doesn't have a gap. All right, I tell him this is a good key to remember. Anytime they have trips, all right, they want to run these quick screens out here, tunnel screens, whatever you want to call it. That's his gap. That's his run fit. All right, so he's going to be able to attack out here, and we'll get into some of that later and some of the tools in his toolbox there. All right, again, trips, base quarters. He's cross-keying. Everything else is the same. All right, so here's that same game. Now, notice our linebackers are bumped a little bit, but they didn't have to bump too far because this 3 is not really wide. If you're playing a team that goes like the Baylor splits and goes real wide, well, then you got to get out there a little bit. He's in a good apex. All right. We're actually doing one of our 3x1 adjustments down here. We're not playing quarters down here. We're basically playing divider or thirds. We call it skate. All right. But back here, we're manned up, and he's our extra hat in the box. All right, and this is actually one of our 6-man pressures. So we're playing 3 deep, 2 under here. We're running our double A gap, hot pressure. And again, if you remember back to the beginning of I believe the philosophy thing, we love to stop the run on first down. So we're bringing 6 here, running one of our best run stoppers on first down to get him in second and long, which ultimately will get him in the 3rd and long, hopefully, and get us off the field. All right, a couple more here. This is our run fits versus a gap scheme, and I touched on this a little bit. This is old school power. So guard pulls down, down, down. All right, our Falcon's going to play his C gap. Our Mike's going to play. He's C gap, he's A gap, he's B gap. The minute we get pull, our Mike's going to be over the top. He's going to be front side A now. All right, he's going to fit in his C gap like he always does. I got a good video of that. So again, this is Pennsylvania football in the snow, December, whatever, is our state championship game a year or 2 ago. But they're running power over here to the tight end. All right, running power here. So they're all down. Guard pulls, fullback's kicking out. Defensive end does a good job right there. All right, again, boxing the football. All right, near us, same arm, same shoulder. We call it shovel coal. It's like old school. Get a shovel, you're shoveling. Shovel coal. All right, look at the linebacker fit here. Our Falcon's going to be right off that tight end who's going to our Mike. All right, our Mike's got to fit right inside of that, and our Bandit is going to go in the front side A gap right there. And this team's pretty darn good. I believe this tackle's playing at University of Michigan now. They had some really good players. We're actually running a little stunt here. We're running a little TT game here. All right, so it wasn't advantageous to us. That's what caused that little gap in the inside there. But nonetheless, our linebacker fits were really good. And you can see on top, our safety here, he's reading his 2. What's his 2 doing? His 2's blocking. So he's extra in the hat. He's see ball, get ball. Make these guys right. So if he would happen to misfit and the ball would spit, then he's here to make the play. Same thing on this side for this safety. So when I talk about 9 in the box, that's what I mean. Here's a good little picture of it. Boom. Nice job there. If anything, I would even like this defense end to be a little thicker on this tight end. But that's not horrible. Good stuff. All right, talked about a green wall. Again, very generic slide here, very, very simple, but we are gapped out. You have the gap you're lined up on. You got these two guys to make them right. This is just a good visual for our kids. Some kids are visual learners, kinesthetic learners, auditory, whatever it is, but we want to show them different things so they understand what we're talking about. And then finally, make the man in front of you right. I touched on this before, but we want to be so aggressive that first level, if our defensive line attacks and they get reached, they get scooped, whatever it is, then this second level needs to make them right. And then our last line of defense needs to make these guys right. So we want to be aggressive. If we're out of a gap, it's not the end of the world. We don't scream and yell at kids for being out of gaps. We want to just coach them up and make them right. So in this picture here, for instance, this end, say you got reached. Well, this linebacker's not just going to bury himself into him. He's going to come outside, and they're just going to do a simple, natural gap exchange. And again, it's his job to kind of, assuming he doesn't have a number 2 receiver, he's going to come down and make them right. And then the last portion here, and I'll touch into this later, but this is very important. One of the best tips I got years ago from a collegiate coach friend of mine, but level the back. If you're not studying this, you're doing yourself a big disservice to your defense. But what level is that? We go level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is behind the quarterback. And what do they do when he's behind the quarterback? They don't lie. Offenses do things for a reason. Offense coordinators are so particular in what they do. It's got to be exact. So when they're back here, 90% of the time they're running downhill run. It's usually inside run, right? That's level 1. They will throw RPO, right? Because again, it's run to them, but they're reading defenders. Level 2, well, here's a picture of it. That's not a great example, but there's level 1. So even with this jet motion, and they're going to fake a jet sweep, right? Which, some people, if you're not used to it, are running out there to play the jet sweep. Well, we know it's a level 1 back. So we knew going in that was just all smoke and mirrors, and they're going to run inside zone. So that's just jet sweep inside zone. So level 2, what does that mean? That's outside run or that's pass, right? Why? Because he's next to the quarterback and all the shotgun stuff. He's very easily coming across to get a good mesh with the quarterback. Or teams will move him up, common sense, to be able to get to his pass protection. Or swing out on his route, get there quicker, right? You don't want him at 7 yards deep. Then it takes longer to get to where he needs to be. And here's a good picture here. Again, level 1 or level 2 running back, they're even. Very easy to see. Everything we code, when we code our huddle, we code the back. I think we code 53 fields on every single play. So here it is. And who needs to know that? I mean, our linebackers for sure. Our D linemen, pass. Coach, level 3, it's pass. Level 2, it's likely to be pass. They could tip their ears back a little bit. And the DBs, well, heck, they know it might be pass, and they're more likely to. So it's all those pre-snap keys that they can get. And the last one is level 3. That's when he is, and this is a little exaggerated. He's a lot of times not that far up, but he's in front of the quarterback. What does that mean? That means 2 things. That means quarterback run, or that means pass. He's up here to pass protect, whether they're full slide, half slide, or he's up here to run some sort of gap scheme. They're going to run quarterback power, quarterback counter, whatever it is. And again, we've got a lot of mileage off this. Here it is exactly. They're going to run some sort of Q draw, but look how he's in front of the quarterback here. All right? We know that. We knew going in. We're playing the play. So that's it. That's the run fits. I think to stop the run, you got to be sound in your fits. Offenses, their job is to kind of keep you off balance and keep the smoke and mirrors up, but it's up to us to kind of maintain what we do and be sound in the run. And you stop the run, you win a lot of football games. All right, now we're going to talk about stunts in the 4-3 system. So, again, ways to protect. Anytime you're static as a front, we're an over front. Everybody knows that. But you got to be able to get to other fronts. But how do you do that and still say simple? So we're an over front. We can stem to an under front. All your defensive line games, your TTs, your ETs, your Texas. We go full line stunts, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Again, just a way be able to change the picture for offensive coordinators. Again, I said this earlier, but if you're naive enough to think you can come out and line up in the same front with the same techniques for 80 plays a game and not think that OC sitting up in the booth is smart enough to make adjustments, then I think you're going to be in for a long night. So you got to be able to do some different things, play some different games, yet be very sound and simple in the games that you play. So up first here are some two-man games that we do. Nothing revolutionary here by any means. Probably things that everybody does, but there is some key points here that we do that I think is different than some teams. So this first one is an ET stunt. Very simply, ET, E goes first, T goes second. All right, but we don't just blindly go down in. So our ET, we get a line. So 5 technique, whatever it is, we could call it on either side. And he's in a shade or a G. We got to be able to get a line. So this 5 technique, we'll cheat in a little bit. We'll tighten down a little bit just to make sure he can cross that tackle's face. But ultimately, this end is reading this guard. The guard blocks down. We're going to go off his butt. Okay? If the guard would block out, say zone to us, well, now we must cross face. Okay? And then once that happens, this tackle wraps around him. All right? And he's going to work for contain as he gets around. So here's a good clip. All right, I believe this is down the bottom of the screen. There we go. So we're looking right here down the bottom of the screen. So ends first, tackle is second. Good picture here. So they're running, looks like this is like a quarterback counter or inside zone, bash play. Nonetheless, guard pulls. So our defensive end could be in this gap, and he could actually, if he got through this tackle, could get in a nice trail or chase technique and catch out from behind, which he almost does right there. Got a hand on, looks like the tackle kind of pulled him down. But that's an ET. Here's a good picture from behind. So right here. So 54, again, he's got to be able to get into alignment that he can get in there, and he's reading that guard right there. Probably could have been a little flatter to begin with, but nonetheless, he got to where he needed to be. All right, just the opposite of that is a tex. So tex, T first, then E. All right, so tackles first, end up the field, and he wraps back inside. So tackle, we call this B gap contain. He's going to attack through the B gap because, and again, more times than not, unless it's some sort of run scheme, down block, or whatever, we're going to assume this tackle is going to go out. So we can get through the B gap and can contain the football that way. This end would then wrap and come right inside of him. All right, now there's different scenarios there, obviously, and we'll get on the whiteboard here in a little bit and can show you that. What if they down block, etc. But that's a simple text stunt. Now, again, you could decide which side you want to run the text. We have auto texts sometimes. Away from the back, this is a great stunt versus inside zone, a way to steal a gap if you're facing some RPO teams. This is a great stunt on long yards. If you want to, again, a way to muddy up the front. They have 5 gaps. We have 4 defenders. If there's a way to basically steal a gap, this is a good way to do it. But nonetheless, you have to designate where. Is it a field text, a boundary text? Is it a strong text, a weak text? So you've got to make sure you differentiate that when and where you're going to run that stuff. All right, so we're looking down the bottom of the picture here. So we're actually stemming to this late, but you'll see our tackle. He's going to go up through the B gap, and then our end does a good job of looping. And more times than not, again, this guard's going to block out and take that B gap who's going tight. That's why we're going to go tight through the B gap, so that guard will respect them, and that A gap oftentimes opens up nice and clean like that. So again, just a way to change your presence, change the picture a little bit, and change your alignment. All right, this next one we call checkers. Now, this is basically a TT game. I've heard of it. Is our nose and our tackle. One goes and the other one goes. So in our terminology, we have 2 ways to do this. This first one we call checkers. Our nose goes first. So he gets into a good alignment, whether it's a G or a shade. We usually like him more in a shade. And he's going to cross his center's face. If the center would block away, well, then he's going what we call butt side, right? Center goes away, we're going butt side. We're just going to ride that. We're going to get on the cheek of that center and ride him down there. And the center will actually be in that gap, and he can play that gap from there. And then the tackle would simply wrap. All right? Same thing. If the center comes at him, like in this picture, then he must cross his face. All right, and then this tackle will wrap. All right? Mike, very simply, if you get these stunts, your gap goes from A to B, and they know that going in. So here's a good picture here. I believe our nose goes first here, and then our tackle wraps. You'll see the center steps to our nose. So the center takes a big, wide step this way. They must be on I think they're running a bootleg, so they're on a full slide. And this nose comes scot-free, crosses face and comes scot-free. He's in the backfield. Now, making the tackle and getting him on the ground, that's a different story. That kid was a little out-athleted there. Let's look at our wrapping tackle here, 22. So he's through. Our tackle should wrap, go in the first space available. He does a good job there as well. And again, that's our checker stunt. From behind, so again, center goes this way. This guy's got a cross face. And then you see the tackle wrap right there. Again, nothing revolutionary, but that's evolving now. We have a little bit better way that we do it. We call it gate, which is the same exact stunt, except we read it. All right, we want the best of both worlds. I talk about offenses. They're RPO teams. They want to have the pen last. If we line up here, they're going to throw here. If we do this, they're going to do this. Well, now we're going to start getting the chalk last. We're going to read the center. All right? So, first thing, we both attack the center. Both our tackles attack the center. We'll line up in twos. Or if you're a three, you better make sure you get there. We got to be able to attack the center. The center's going to step one way or another. I mean, down the line, I guess he could just retreat and they go five, big on big. But if the center steps at me, so let's look at this guy in the red. If the center steps at me, same picture as before, same rules, checkers, well, you loop. Very easy. All right? And then when that happens, he will wrap right behind you. If the center steps away from me, so in this picture here, if he steps here, I penetrate off his butt. All right? And then this tackle wraps around. And in essence, what we get 2-in-1 gap there. All right? So again, we're going to play this A gap with the center. And again, the linebacker's gap changes. So how is that different than checkers? It's because we're reading it. In checkers, we tell our nose to always go first. So that's a better stunt when I know they're running to the strong side. Gate is something that recently we've done more of where it's a read and we always can be correct. So it's just a matter of practicing and what you want to do. But here's a good picture here. Both tackles, both attacking the center. All right, so there you go. The center steps this way. So I told you if he steps at me, cross face, you'll see this tackle wrap late. Good. So from this guy's perspective, so they're both reading it. Center steps away from me, I penetrate and go off his butt. So you'll see how we get both in the gap, and they both end up being unblocked. Just a way to create disruption in there. You can never be wrong inside there. Here's a good end zone copy of it. Where's the center? So there it is. Center's kind of blocked by the official. He steps here. So this tackle's going to go. Even though our guard tries to block down, he's going to go butt side. This guy will wrap. Nice little stunt there. It's to the point now where we'll allow our kids to do that. We'll give them parameters, but say it's on any base call on first or second down. You guys can do this. So there's no movement. There's no pre-snap, post-snap movement. We're not running any stunts. We're not running any blitzes. If it's any base call on first or second down, if our two tackles are good enough and they're coached up enough, we'll allow them to do that on their own because, again, it allows us to be right all the time. All right. Now, some full line movements, full line stunts, advantages. A great way to create numbers in the box with 4D linemen, right? Some people say the 3-3 stuff can be a little more versatile. We like this because we can add numbers to the box this way. It's an easy way to muddy up the front. All right, again, we're gap sound. This guy's this gap, this guy's this. This is an easy way to steal a gap. All right, and it's a very cheap way to gain pressure with only 4 guys. So our first stunt is basically we call in-law. It's a double ET. So it's ET on both sides. And again, we're reading this out as we go. Both ends coming down are reading their respective guards. If they're at them, they cross face. If they're away, they go off their butt. And we got both tackles wrapping here. So you can see here, this is just a normal 5-man protection. They got full slide to the back. And our end up top, again, nothing revolutionary there. The tackle just overset him, and he came underneath, and we got some cheap pressure. So nothing that I did, nothing special that we drew up there. Just a little game like that can create you some easy pressure, some cheap pressure here. You know, you get a guy that's oversetting a lot, boom, boom, he's down, and then we're good. All right, outlaw. This is the same deal as the Tex, but it's double Tex. So both tackles are first, B-gap contained, both ends are looping. All right. So this is something we love, and I'll talk about this when we get to our empty stuff, but we love versus empty because, again, empty, you know, whenever you're going to play the 3x1, you know, this backer here has a gap still, right? And this backer here has a gap. So that's where you're in. You have to make a decision. Do I wide them out of the box? Do I keep them in the box? Well, if I keep them in the box, they're going to throw it out here. All right, if I widen them out of the box, well, they're going to run QB draw of some sort. So you got to have a way to muddy the front up. All right, I want to make, if they do run QB draw, I want to make this ball bubble outside. So we run this stunt, and we oftentimes come scot-free through the middle. Or, like I said, if QB draw was on, or right there, a lot of times quarterbacks will see that hole open, they'll take off, and then we got two defensive ends coming through to wrap them up. Here's a good picture from behind. So again, B-gap contain, step, wrap, and we will have different versions. We have two versions of this. One we talk about versus the pass, and one we like versus the run. It's basically how that defensive end, how many steps he goes up the field. So watch this, guys. Really good footwork here. 1, 2, 3, post under, and get him on the ground. All right, and one other version we call mixer. This is a very similar version, except we combine the two. We like combine a Tex and a boundary. Sometimes we do it to field and boundary, because a lot of times we'll do it to the back. All right, we like Tex away from the back, and we like ET to the back. So again, that's all based on film study where you want the ball to spit. But again, something we've had success with over the time. Now this is out of our 3-man front. So long story short, but this is going to be our 3 technique, running the Tex here. He's up and under. Over here we got ET on this side. This is about our Okie front. Again, necessarily did we come scot-free to make a sack? No, but it's not about that. It's about creating pressure, getting those offensive linemen off their level, and now you get a free kind of a guy coming through a gap, and it causes a little bit of pressure, get the quarterback off his spot, and now, you know, he's got to pull out of there and throw a ball off his back foot. So we kind of like when that stuff happens. Anything to get the quarterback out of his nice, pretty world of sitting back there in his pocket, ready to throw the ball. So there's some nice, easy stunts you can add to your defensive line repertoire to give you some advantages versus run and pass. All right, so now we talked about the ET stunt, the Tex stunt, in-law, outlaw. Now, one that we really like, and this is very specific to a certain, a 10-personnel team that likes inside zone, we call it mixer. All right, what we like is we like Tex, all right, away from the back, and we like ET to the back. Now, why do we like that? So let's talk offensively here first. So we're assuming inside zone this way. All right, quarterback's going to pull it out this way. So we know we're going to get, all right, zone this way, probably 2 double teams there. All right, so let's start on the Tex side first. We love Tex stunts away from the back. So what's going to happen, these 2 are going to step to our nose, and we'll make sure he's out here in a nice G. So he's going to cross face. And if you remember from the Tex, he's going B gap contain. So because he's stepping here, we very easily can get to the B gap and get up through here and contain the football. Boom, perfect. This tapper's going to block out, and it's going to wash him up the field. Our end then, as you can see here, steps one quick. Isn't a pass rush version. It's one step because that tapper's going to try to reach him or base him, and he's going to loop back through And oftentimes, depending on how patient this center is, because this center is going to work double team, but then he's quickly, a lot of times when he sees this nose leave, he's going right to the mic. So more times than not, you're going to have this end right here unblocked to make the play. All right, so if this ball spits front side, we're really good. On the back side, we love the ET, so same exact play, same setup. We're going to get veer blocked. We're getting red here now. So normally as a defensive end, we're near footing or surfing on the line of scrimmage, playing passive, letting them read us, and we like that. But there's times we want to attack. All right, so an easy way to steal a gap here, right, so the Mike doesn't have to be downhill in the A gap right now, which he could be, normal defense, is the minute this is called and he gets a down block, he is off his butt, and he is our dive player. He is screaming after the running back. All right, no matter what, he's as tight as he can. This guy's down. He's coming off his butt. He's going to tackle the running back. So if he hands the ball off, that's going to be a TFL. More times than not, though, we're forcing the quarterback's hand here. If the quarterback is in fact reading this, he's going to see the ends down, so he's going to pull it, and we have our tackle here looping, unblocked, nice and tight off that D-end's butt, unblocked to be an inside shoulder of the quarterback player, and then you still have your Mike here scraping over the top. He knows he's slower here when we run this stunt. He could be scraping over the top inside out. But again, a great little stunt that you could add to your repertoire versus 10 personnel, inside zone teams to really give yourself an advantage versus that play.
All right, we're going to talk about kind of the basis of quarters coverage, in a 4-3 system. Again, quarters press, but primarily we play quarters. We can play quarters to everything. We don't choose to play quarters to everything, especially 3-by-1. We definitely have some adjustments there, but everything else, base, we can play quarters to whatever you got. So match quarters. I got a couple cool diagrams here to understand what offenses try to do. In the red there, we call that the bait, right? So any under routes, flat routes, swing routes, that's oftentimes, offenses use those to bait you, right? They want to suck you up. I use the analogy all the time with my players. It's like how often you get to go fishing, you throw a line in and you get a bite with your first cast. I mean, I tell my linebackers all the time, don't be that guy that jumps the swing route in the backfield, right? Looking at the back end in the blue, the decoy area, the deep post, the deep goes, oftentimes they're just trying to take the top off defense, run you out of there. And most offenses, again, they throw it deep, some throw screens short, but more times than not, they want to attack the middle of the field. And then also with quarters, we'll get into this later, you have to understand what the quarters beaters are. Offensive coaches have very specific routes they want to run to try to break down your defense. All right, something we talk about here is no cover zone. Very important to understand as well. The no cover zone is this area here in the red. So as linebackers, again, kind of back to that first thing, the bait, we don't ever want to come running up on that. It's a no cover zone. They can swing, they can run it out. We're going to leverage it. So if I'm an underneath linebacker and I'm a match 2 guy and my 2's going to the flat. So for instance, right here, I'm a match 2. My 2 goes to the flat, and we'll say we have our Falcon right here to the field. We are not going to do that, right? We're not. But with that being said, we will leverage it, meaning I get a high hat here. I get a run read or a pass read, high hat. Where's my 2? Here he comes to the flat. I'm going to exit out, all right? Leveraging it, so if they do throw it, I can break up on it. But I want to try to stay back here in my zone, 5 to 7 yards, as deep as I can there, as long as I can. Same thing on an under route if I'm a Mike linebacker here. And they get this guy coming flat underneath. Right now, 1, 2, that's my 3, right? I don't want to come up and try to knock his head off necessarily, although that's okay sometimes, especially if he's a little deeper. But real shallow, they want us to do that because then they're going to throw this route right behind you. All right, so little things like that, just general football knowledge about what offenses try to do to you really goes a long way. Now, hard deck. Hard deck is 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. So here's the line of scrimmage. There's the hard deck. So this area here, just draw a line all the way across. That's the hard deck. That as a safety, any route underneath the hard deck, you should have help with. All right, you have 3 linebackers under here, your Bandit, your Mike, your Falcon, that will be there to help with underneath routes. Again, unless they're sucked in by a run look, and that's, again, a different story there. But over here on the left, these are all routes underneath the hard deck. So if he runs an out, all right, you're going to have a Falcon there to run with them. A slant or an in, you're going to have a Falcon there ready to bang them, but a Mike soon there ready to be there to take him over. Your safety just needs to leverage those routes. So if it's an out, we're going to leverage them. We're going to stay on top of them. If it's a slant, we're going to leverage it. We're going to stay on top of it. If it's an under and over, well, then we're going to pass that off, and we're going to get our eyes back to this side right now. All right, let's look at the other side. So this is a route that goes past the hard deck. It's a vertical route. Anything past 5 yards, we consider that vertical. And then obviously it could break off, wherever they want to do. But anything past the hard deck, it becomes ours as a safety. No questions asked. Now notice here our technique. We're going to be 2 yards off and 10 yards off roughly. Again, ability alignment. If you're a little faster, if you're a stud, that guy can move up. If their guy is a stud, he can back up a little bit. But we don't want to backpedal. We want to scooch, maintain that inside leverage as much as we can. In a perfect world, as he releases vertical, we get a reroute by our Bandit. He's got to run the hump a little bit, and we're able to stay right inside of him and then just wall him off and run with him as he goes vertical. A couple other key points here that I think are very, very good to know and very good to teach your kids. What is the difference between this number 2 receiver and this number 2 receiver? All right. I think you're probably thinking it. One's off the ball and one is on the ball. We have very specific checks as a defense that we will do, and more of this is game plan. But offensive teams run different routes when they put their number 2 off the ball and they put their number 2 on the ball. When he's off the ball, it's primarily short routes, bubbles, slants, outs, ins, unders. When he's on the ball, and I want you to go back and study and look at your tape. When he's on the ball, it's primarily vertical routes. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a guy line up on the ball and run a bubble. Okay? Has it happened? I'm sure it's happened in football. I don't see it very often. But we tell our safeties that because we tell them, hey, if he's on the ball, well, I'm ready for a vertical route. I'm going to be more ready for a vertical route, etc. If he's off the ball, I'm more flat-foot and ready to go because he's likely to run a bubble. And in case he runs a bubble, we got to attack that. He's ours. That's one little asterisk to our defense. If number 2 runs a bubble, the safety must take him because more times than not, when he runs a bubble, what are you getting off it? You're getting RPO. You're getting inside zone RPO. And when you get run look, guess what you're losing? You're losing your underneath defender. That Falcon's going to be in the backfield. So we attack bubbles. All right? So, and that's something we practice, and they know like this as you go. All right, here's a really good illustration here. Our quarters versus a double set. And again, just kind of, I think visuals are good for kids. Who you have, who's your match? Who are you in charge of if they throw the ball? So it just gives a nice visual. Corners have 1. Falcon and safety have 2. Bandit and safety have 2. Mike has 3. All right, stuff we've been talking about. All right, a couple instances now how we're going to line up some different sets, how we're going to play some different coverages, and then we'll get to the film. So set the front to the 2 receivers. Right. All right, alignment's all good. Now, a lot of teams do this. They give us fast motion. All right, the minute that happens, we don't have to adjust. That's the beautiful thing about quarters. We can easily adjust, but we ain't going to move much. All that has become right now to us is 3 receivers out here. We're going to play our normal deal. We're going to play our quarters. He's still reading 2. He's got 1. The Falcon knows, though, they quickly became trips. And the minute there's trips, that's a high likelihood when teams run fast motion, they're going to run a screen, right? They're going to throw the ball out there, or that's 100% a decoy. But either way, this Falcon needs to know that, and he needs to be ready to attack if they do run a swing pass there. Or, like I said, a lot of times that's bait, and then they're going to try to run, a pass route behind it. Maybe double curl with a swing. That's their flat control. They want that Falcon to attack, right? We're ready to attack, but we're not going to go into that no cover zone. All right, we're going to maintain here. We're going to wall 2. We'll leverage it, but we're not going to attack it. But point is, if you go to the next slide, this is what needs to happen. The Falcon needs to be aware that that's happening. He knows when anytime it's tripped, and we ingrain this into his head, you got to be ready to attack, be ready to trigger if the ball's thrown. But at the same point, if they throw it, if it's a drop back, we don't want to, be the bait, and we don't want to attack in a no cover zone. But trips, our linebackers are going to bump a little bit. They quickly became trips. Our Mike needs to bump out a little bit, and then something that we do a lot of, and this would be game plan, but the tough call that we'll talk about actually we talked about in our stunts, that's where our line would actually slant. So that would get us into what we want to be. Remember, when they're in trips, we want to have our front set away from the trips. Now, this is high-level stuff. This is stuff you would have to practice. This is stuff your Mike or your linebacker, whoever's setting your stuff, would have to be ready for. In a game like this, our Mike back would be yelling, alert, tough, meaning the minute that motion picks up, he yells, tough, 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 and our D-line knows that they're slanting into those gaps. Okay, bump over, everything else is the same. Boundary safety, he's looking to cross key 3. Well, 3 running a fast motion to the sideline isn't going vertical. So your bandit right now just become free. He's in the middle of the field here. Again, either to help out on the run if they run inside zone, or help out in the pass if they throw the ball down the field. All right, here's a good picture of it. I believe this is some pre-snap motion. So all that is, I believe this is tight end tray. So tight end, 2 receivers. All right, and actually in this picture here, we're playing cover 1. All right, so this is a bad example for that, but nonetheless, the motion doesn't make us adjust much. Let's go to the next one here. All right, this is base quarters versus pro. And again, we'll watch some film here in a minute. Set the front to the left. We have a 9-3 shade 5, match 2, match 3, etc. This is all stuff that we have been doing. Where's my 2? I don't have a 2. My 2's in the backfield. It's one of these 2, right? So I can be a lot more aggressive down here. Likely what route would I get, as I say? I'm probably going to get something to the flat. I might get a swing, but you got to remember, you usually have a linebacker that's going to help underneath. So this boundary safety here, very likely not to get involved in much over here, unless, of course, they run like a play action, bootleg with the fullback in the flat. You'll lose your bandit because it's a run. Then you'll have to come down on that too, but nothing vertical. All right. He's very aggressive, can help out where needed. All right. Slot. So quarters versus slot, very common formation. Tight ends here. So over here, we're playing normal quarters. Man up, apexed. He's going to look to reroute 2. All right. He's inside of 2. We feel pretty good out there. Again, we never press a tight end. And depending on this backfield set, we can make a cover 2 check back here, or we can solo him up. So right here, our boundary safety, he doesn't have a trips guy. So we're going to make a cover 2 check, which makes our corner, he's going to play the flat. If they would happen to release, our common route would be, good old John Gruden's Spider 2 Y banana. So he played deep to shallow in his zone. He'd be over top. All right, this backer's inside, and he's actually now extra. He'll probably get sucked in on the run, but he can help out to the flat late. All right, so here's kind of a picture of that. Although they moved their fullback on the other side. So to the boundary, we can't play cover 2 now. We're going to play solo. He's manned up because this safety has got to cross key his trips. Remember, anytime there's trips, 3 vertical threats, we got to make sure that backside safety is keying that. Now, and again, this is all a game plan thing. I didn't signal nothing in. If this fullback or H-back would motion over or line up on this side, well, now we can check cover 2 over here. All right. So this is an old school bootleg. All right. It looks like it's some sort of flood. I think he's out deep. He's going to run the middle. And then they got this H-back delay into the flat. So right there, he becomes 2. All right. He's vertical. So the safety has him all the way. He's vertical. He has him all the way. This boundary safety cross-keyed 3. His 3. Where'd he go? He went to the flat. So this guy just became a free player. He's looking to poach the other side of the field. Good coaching point right there. As a defensive lineman, never jump. Okay. Never, ever jump as a defensive lineman unless you're engaged. All right, so good distribution there, and that's a good scramble drill. All right, number 2 went vertical, so our safety stayed with them and then played through their hands. All right, slot versus motion, so same thing. So tight end here, slot over here. We're playing quarters. Again, nobody has to run across the field. We're not rocking and rolling. A couple guys just got to slide in a little bit, and it just becomes pro. Corner's going to go out. Safety will come back to his 2x9 on the tight end. He's going to bump into his 2x9 off the tackle. Everything else stays the same. All right, spread. So pro on this side, twins on this side. Easy. We're quarters here. Nothing changes. All right. Where's the front set? Left, left, left. So this guy right now is in conflict. He knows that pre-snap. Is he going to play his gap or is he going to give a spike call? Nonetheless, he's got to make that decision, and he has that in his toolbox to do that. Over to the tight end. All right, 9 technique. We like that because, you know, for our safeties, we know you're probably going to get inside release there. All right, and we're manned up over here. All right, easy. Everything's pretty. Nice picture there. We feel very good in this coverage here because, again, we feel good on this tight end wing side or tight end receiver side. And into the field, if this guy is their stud, you know, which a lot of teams do, we feel that we can control this, get a spike call. Now we can get a reroute. All right, that's one negative to this defense. If you don't give a spike call, then they run play action. Say they run play action Dino, play action double post. So they do that. They run play action, and we don't spike it. This Falcon, you're going to lose him. So you get no reroute. Now you got this speedy receiver on your safety, which if you ask any offense coordinator in America, they'll say they like that matchup. So we got to understand that. We got to know that, and we got to have answers. So our first answer would be spike it so he could get a reroute. Our second answer is if this tight end blocks, we teach our boundary safety then. If you don't have no vertical threat, then we teach him a lot of times, then we want you to fishtail and protect the middle of the field. So that's another good built-in rule to have for your safety. Because a lot of times if we're running play action, they might want to, you know, 7-man protect. They'll run him off, and they'll go double post. Well, that's a way this boundary safety, if his 2 blocks, then he can spin to the middle of the field. So again, know where your weaknesses are and be able to have answers for them. So same set here. So tight end's down the bottom. So it's a right, right, right. So right here, this guy, he's in conflict. He's playing this B gap right here. All right, and he's apexed. So he did not give a spike call. And another good thing, another good cheat, why I think this is smart by him, is the B gap threatened right now. Look at the back. Remember levels of the back. Now this guy, this tailback was a level 1 back. It looked like he was coming downhill. I'd give him the spike call. But right now he's a level 2 back, and it's hard to tell here by this picture, but he almost looks out behind, like he's behind that tackle. There's really not a threat of run there. So I buy that. Now, he could always step back and quarterback draw, and that's a different situation. But, you know, understanding what's your threats. All right, so they run a little swing here. Looks like it's a decoy. They're trying to run a little tight end screen back to the middle. All right, so you can see my boundary safety. I just told you, if his tight end blocks, then he could look to poach and help out. He does a good job of doing that right there. You see his eyes. But then he sniffs out the screen. He sees the quarterback throw it. Let's go back to my linebackers. He's a match 2 player. His 2's right there. His 2 blocks. All right, he doesn't leave. He's still hanging out here, waiting for screen, waiting for stuff like this. He does a good job of sniffing it out and making a play. All right, my Mike linebacker, he's a match 3 player. His 3 leaves, he's yelling push, which tells him he's going to push out, and this Mike's new 3 could be coming in. He starts to do that, but you see he quickly sees the fake, redirects, and does a great job of, we call it cupping the football. The Mike's outside in, the bandit would be inside out, knowing where your help's coming from. All right? Again, that's what offensive football is all about. They do this window dressing, swing, motion, all these guys. We just got to be sound and be good at what we do. All right, same set. I believe the tight end's up top here. So right. This guy here is in conflict. I believe, yes. Look at the defensive end. He gave a spike call to the D end, and this is perfect. You get a pass set, you get a base block, boom, take the B gap. And that's what happened right there. We get some nice cheap pressure. But also, and this guy could even be more, he gave a spike call. So he has nothing but the C gap. But right there, He's coming to reroute. He just needs a little more. Get another hand on him. That's pretty good defense there. And while we're at it, here's a good look. They're running some sort of drive concept. So as he's leaving to reroute 2, we always want to reroute but stay square, because real quick here, this under route became his new 2. Right there, boom, reroute, get your eyes back. Here comes this new 2. That's going to leverage you. The Mike right now, that's his 3, but the minute 3 leaves, his 3's behind him. So they do a real good job passing those routes off underneath. Safety's excellent. Excellent here. Watch his safety. Scooch, scooch, scooch. Inside leverage. Boom. Excellent. Watch the other safety. Again, where's his 2? His 2 goes immediately under. He's below the hard deck, which it tells him, I become free. I can look to rob, and we tell him all the time, if your 2 goes under, more times than not, this 2's coming back. So we're looking to poach and rob that. If it was any type of vertical thing, he could run to the post. That boundary safety does excellent right there. So we got this dig doubled. We got this guy coming off in this under. We got him underneath the dig. You know, both linebackers are square in case the quarterback steps up to try to run the football. Pretty good. All right, tight end tray. Again, any type of attached tight end sets give you some issues. This guy is in conflict. Linebackers are bumped. Why are they bumped? Because it's trips. I know it's not 3 speed trips, but it's still trips nonetheless. All right, right. Let's see what happens here. So this Falcon's in conflict. Everything else is the same. So here's tight end trips. 1, 2, 3. Here's my safety. He's cross keying the tight end. If the tight end's vertical, he has them. If the tight end blocks, bubbles, out, under, he becomes a robber. He becomes our +1 wherever we want him. Run game, pass game, protect the post, whatever. So here it is here. He's vertical. He was looking to go cut him off, but he came on a little under. So they run kind of triple slant here. They run a little win route by number 2. The only thing I don't like here is our Falcons probably a little, we say apex, right? Apex means split the difference between the tight end and number 2. He's a little too wide. I'd rather him apex, so as he gets high hat, he exits, and then they'll be in that collision point where this receiver is going to have to make a drastic under or over move. By being so wide, he gives his inside up, and now we have to actually step to hit him, which I don't want to step to hit him because now you're opening one window up outside. Okay? Everything works inside out. Our 3-2 players inside out. Nonetheless, all right, here's a slant by number 2. Our safety's just leveraging him. Okay? This safety's leveraging him. And our corner's all over number 1. Look down the bottom. Let's watch our technique here. Inside eye. All right. Not bad. Other than, I don't know, you don't need 2 hands. It's just offhand. Offhand jam on into the chest breastplate of that receiver. All right. Quarters versus twins open. So twins open, no tight end. Where do we set the front? We set it to the receivers. So we're quarters over here. All right, back here, we're quarters as well. Where's my number 2 receiver? He's right here in the backfield. Is he a vertical threat? Absolutely not. Right? What are some things they're going to do? I mean, generally speaking, he's going to run to the flat, or a lot nowadays, teams like to run wheels. So they'll probably tighten him down. They'll run one out, and they'll run him up on the sideline. All right? But understand, the Bandit has a very special rule. He's a match 2 player, and he knows anytime my 2, who's lined up in the backfield, runs a wheel, if anybody ever runs a wheel from the backfield, the underneath match player's got to carry him. All right? Anytime a wheel's run from the backfield, our underneath defenders run with them. If it's a wheel from a receiver, our linebackers never run with them. They only run with wheels if it's from the backfield, if it's a running back or lined up in the backfield. So here we go. This is old school. It looks kind of like, I believe it's just curl flat. So both running backs are to the flat. They're in the no cover zone. All right. So up top, this backer does a good job. I know this is a lazy route, but he did a good job of not coming up. He stayed back in his zone. All right. Good. This backer down the bottom See, they kind of attack a little bit. We'd rather them a little wider. Just leverage it. You don't need to come up and attack to it because they want you to come up because they throw the ball right behind you. Okay? Trips closed. All right, a couple more here, a couple different formations. So, again, you have some decisions to make. Trips closed. We're going to play, base quarters of this. Safety's got a cross read 3, just like he always has. These guys are normal. Again, if 2 bubbles, this safety has them. Nothing changes over there. All right, back here, we're going to make a solo call. That means you are manned up on the tight end. We never press a tight end, obviously. All right, linebackers bump. Why? Because it's trips. All right, here's a good picture now, albeit it's a condensed set. It's still trips nonetheless. 1, 2, 3. All right, back here, we're sold up on the tight end. All right, our corner does just a very, very awesome instinctive job. This tight end releases, but instead of running the pass right, he's just trying to block him. In our corner, they're trying to run a little swing screen, beats him with speed, and makes a great play in the backfield. All right. And then I think this is the last one here. This is verse trips open. So again, base quarters, same exact thing as the other one, except the tight end, instead of being attached, he's out here. And he's manned up on him. He's soloed up. We're looking to coach 3. If 3's vertical, we have him. But this is the beauty of playing this defense. If he doesn't go vertical, which oftentimes he doesn't, if he does any of this, take that out of there, then you're free. And then you're reading this quarterback. If it's run, you're extra in the run fit. If he looks over here, you can help here. If he looks over here, you can help here. All right. So this is a drive concept. So here we go. So it went from 2 by 2. So what changed? Right there, 2 by 2. There's his 2. Here's his 2. You see they're zoned in. Man, 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 apex. All right, they motioned over. No big deal. One person changed. He's just got to cross read his 3 from the other side. All right, there. It's 3 vertical. He's kind of in between. He's right about the hard deck. He's going to continue over. So you just got to leverage that. All right, you don't need to jump it because, well, this linebacker a little bit overplayed it. And when that motion happens, our bandit here on the back side, that's going to become his 2. Right there, right there. Here's his new 2. So he needs to kind of hang that back there a little bit better. But nonetheless, you always have the safety on top of you to make you right. And that's kind of how this plays out. Really good by our field safety. Watch the inside leverage here. All right. Scooch, maintain inside leverage, jump it. Good play on the ball. So that's base quarters versus all the formations. Now, trust me, albeit there's adjustments you want to make, especially the 3 by 1. We will play cover 1 also. We will play some hot coverage, which we'll get into at a different time. But you got to have answers. But I think quarters is very versatile. You can line up to any formation and play them successfully. But the key is you got to understand what your weaknesses are. Where are you weak? Where's the offense going to try to attack you, and be able to adjust and have answers. If you can do that, you'll be successful. All right, so we're going to talk about 2 by 2 coverage, or quarters coverage versus 2 by 2, and then quarters coverage versus 3 by 1 here on the whiteboard. And then we'll get a little bit back to the video. But very simply, disregard the front here. We're setting the front to the right. All right, so you know that this backer here is the one that is solid. This backer here has a gap. So you always got to keep that in your mind. So whether he plays the B gap or is going to spike him, whatever happens, that's a different conversation. So quarters, we are manned up on the outside. All right, normal splits, we're inside shade. All right, trying to force him outside, offhand jam, all that good stuff. All right, back here coverage-wise, our linebackers are underneath match defenders. All right, our outside backers are always match 2, and our Mike is always match 3. All right, our 2 safeties are also match 2 players. All right, so couple things here. If 2 is vertical, all right, we have what we call the hard deck at 5 yards. If 2 is vertical, he is all the safety. When I say vertical, vertical means corner, out, vertical, post, dig. Anything past 5 yards, past the hard deck, he become the safeties. Now, perfect world, we would love a reroute. We would love our bandit or our falcon to get a reroute on number 2, right? But if offenses are smart, you know, and it'll give a run fake, low hat, high hat of this offensive line, because if you remember back to the beginning, if we see run, we are fitting our gap. So if that happens, you will lose your backer. And that's why your field safety has to be your best athlete, because if you lose your backer, now you got a guy screaming on you, he's got to be able to hold up. But nonetheless, any route past 5 yards, the safety has them. But we're looking for a reroute. Now, if you get any routes below 5 yards, below the hard deck, all right, you should have help. You should have help from your linebackers. Again, just so you didn't lose them in the run fit. So we'll say we got a simple, very common route here. We'll say out with the fade. So the corner's taking the fade. You have your bandit right here. Say it's high hat. You get a pass set here by the tackle. All right. Then the bandit is going to relate to his 2. He's going to be here. All right. Squashing grapes. Looking, staying inside shoulder, looking to reroute. If he goes out, he is going to undercut. The field safety, 10 by 2 inside, he's going to be the same thing. He's vertical. All right. Scooching. The minute he goes out, he knows he has help from the bandit. So he's going to look and see, but he's still going to mirror it, because if he would happen to turn it up on a wheel, then the safety will be over the top. This bandit would not carry the wheel there. Okay. Over here, same instance. Let's say now this receiver goes up, say a little in route right there. Maybe it's double in route over there. So same picture, corner has all of 1. All right. As he comes up, as he's going to reroute, again, say it's a pass set. The minute he goes under, if we can collision, great. If it's too shallow, we won't do it. We're just going to yell in and pass that off. But if we can collision, great. Now, in this case, if this guy would keep going, this field safety would not take him, because anything in, we got to assume that if he goes in, something's coming back to us. So then we could zone off with our eyes back to this number 2. All right. Or it could be the old NCA route. Usually it's an in, a dig, and then a post. All right. So he can actually zone off, because the minute he goes under, you know, you're going to have help by the mic. So the last thing there I want to talk about with the mic, and it's very important, is what we call a push call. So in that same picture, 2 by 2, right here with the back over to this side, this mic is telling this falcon, push, push, push. Well, what does that mean? There's a very high likelihood that this running back is going to swing or go out to the flat. So even though he's 3 right now, the minute he swings, and say you get snag, 2's vertical and runs a corner, and 1 comes in and runs his little snag route. This, at the end of this day, it's who becomes 2, who becomes 3. This quickly becomes 2, and this route becomes 3. So he's going to look the wall 2. He got a push call. He's going to go after that. The mic's working out his 3 left, so his eyes are going to these 2. One of them is likely to come in, and that's going to be his 3, so he's going to spot up on his 3. Safety's over top of 2. Corner's going to be on 2 as well. Now, this is one thing, if you heard back at the beginning, we could, and we have before, any under route, we could say China and zone off, but again, that's a conversation for a different time. The last thing I want to talk about in our quarters coverage, and we touched on this a little bit ago, is 3 by 1. All right. Very common set, and we actually have a bunch of 3 by 1 checks we'll play. But long story short, everything's the same. Man, he's 10 by 2 inside. This boundary safety's got to cross key that number 3. If 3 is vertical, and 90% of the time when teams run 3 vertical or run 4 verts, he's probably going to come back to him, right? More time, he's probably going to come back to him. So he's going to take him, just float over, he has him, easy. If these 2 would switch release, well, who becomes 3? It would be this guy now. But point is, and this is where you can get good at it, if 3 runs anything but vertical, say he runs an immediate under, say he runs a bubble, say he runs an out, this boundary safety here now, who's cross-keying him, now just became free. He became a robber, all right? He could be extra in the run game. Maybe they're running zone read, bubble. Well, now he's your extra hat. If they do run bubble, maybe they run dig, double post. Well, now he's going to be your robber back here in the middle field, looking to poach over to that side. So, again, some versatility in the defense, understanding, what can get you beat and understanding where your weaknesses are.
All right, we're going to talk a little pre-snap and post-snap movement in the 4-3. Again, any still target is easy to hit, right? Use whatever analogy you want. If something's sitting there, I'm going to get good enough. If I practice enough, I'm going to be able to hit it. I think the same thing as a defense. We line up the same way and don't move and don't do anything. They're going to practice the whole week against that, and they're going to eventually hit it. So we want to be able to move pre-snap, stem, and we want to be able to post-snap. A lot of people call that blooding. Again, we're an over front, so we can post-snap move to an under front. We can post-snap move the other way. Lots of different things we can do. So a little bit of things in our repertoire. Why pre-snap move? Again, we call it stem. We make it a part of the front call, so we can call it from the sideline. There's been years where we build it in. Anytime we call this front, we are going to move, period. It's built in. We teach it to them from day one, and we don't have to call it. So I don't have to worry about staying on the sideline calling it, right? It's built in. It presents a different look. It gives a different presentation to the offense. Again, they're so used to blocking a 3 and a shade and a 5, but all of a sudden now we're in a 0 and a 4-eye and it's tough for them because offense is going to be practiced so much. They only have so much time to practice looks. So the more we can present something different, yet still be simple, it's on our advantage. Silent library. So again, a hand signals only deal. We do this and on the during practice, no talking, just hand signal it in, signal our defense, and have them run through it. Just a good way to practice it. Stem is the D line's disguise, just like a DB's disguise is press bail. Stemming is a defensive lineman's disguise. All right. Moving from one technique to another. And then we love this on 3rd and short, right? 3rd and short, you have nothing to lose. It's 3rd and 1. If you jump off sides, you lose a half yard. If the offense jumps off sides, it's a lot more damaging to them. So we love it on 3rd and short. We love it down near our goal line. Again, how much yards are we going to lose versus if we stem pre-snap, they're likely to jump off sides a lot. Once or twice a game, you'll get teams, especially if you do it right, especially if you do it with the right timing, and that's something we'll talk about. Snap count is crucial. Study it. You got to know when to stem, when to move, when to say stem, move, whatever word you're going to use. It's very specific when you want to do it. You just don't want to give them random. You want to be very specific when you do that. You got to marry it up with the quarterback's cadence. So if it's a team that goes blue, blue, set, go. Well, we teach our kids that we want them to say the stem word when they say set. So blue, blue, sit. So when he gets the S in the set, we're going to stem. So that marries up with what they're doing. If it's a down, set, hut team, well, we'll probably do it on set. So studying their cadence. Sometimes this is if you go out and scout an opponent, you know it ahead of time. If you play them a lot in your conference, you know their cadence. If not, you might take you a series or two for your guys to learn where their cadence is. But timing that up so you stem right at the last possible moment. All right, our Mike makes the stem or move call. And then, a lot of teams, a lot of offenses don't like that. They'll say you're trying to, yell their snap count, even though you're not, you're just stemming your front. So then we would then employ our 3 technique down here to do it because the mic's standing right next to the official, the umpire. He can hear him. So they might tell you, hey, no more yelling like that. So then we'll have our 3 technique to call it. That was a good hint or a good tip I got years ago. makes the offensive lineman think quick and change calls. Again, static, target that doesn't move versus a moving target's harder to hit. They got to communicate and make them play on the run. And again, we can go from odd to even to odd, over to under, lots of different ways that you can move. All right, so here, this is looks like we're in a left call, or this is just a stem call. So we started in an under front down here. Motion occurs, boom, we stem over. And again, nobody comes free per se, but what happens is you get some nice movement, changes up their blocking scheme. You can see a lot of black shirts here on the offense, missed assignments, not getting good solid contact like they normally would if we were just standing there. So again, nothing outrageous. Here's a good end zone copy of it. We lined up in an under front here, and all we did was pre-snap stem to an over front. All right, easy, nice, cheap, easy thing you could build into your system. So here it is again, little pre-snap movement. This is 3rd down and 1. We stem over, and that offensive tackle jumps off sides, and we get them back to 3rd and 6. All right. So again, nothing crazy, not a big investment, very, very inexpensive for us as a defense to put this in. All right, so here we go. We did this a little bit. We started in basically an odd front. We were 4-eye, we were 0, we were 5, and then we would just walk him down late. The D-line would stem over. So again, offenses, they are very, very diligent in what they do. They're very robotic, I'd say, in what they do. And, hey, if it's a 3 down, we're going to block it this way. If it's a 4 down, we're going to block it this way. So now we're making these 16, 17-year-old kids think and make calls and make adjustments at the last minute. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And we get a TFL. All right, so that's pre-snap, and that's all well and good. Build it in however you like. But something we do a lot of as well is post-snap movement. All right, like I mentioned before, like I alluded to, it's hard to hit a moving target. I don't care what you're talking about. Football, shooting a rifle, throwing a football. If you're standing there, I could probably hit you, be pretty accurate with you standing there. The minute you sprint across, now it's a little more difficult. That difficulty level just went up a little bit. Good way to steal gaps from an offense, right? Steal gaps from an offense. We'll draw it up here in a little bit, but a good way to steal gaps. Very good for undersized defensive linemen. Again, Pine Richland, where I'm at, it's a public school. We can't recruit kids. We get who we get. Some years we got some big kids. Some years we got little kids. So post-snap movement's a good way to be able to use your speed a little bit. We go from an over to an under front. Great versus tight end trade or strength change as well. So the old school 1990s, early 2000s tight end trade and 21 personnel. Instead of resetting our front, we could stay in an over front, but then stem back to the side the tight end trades to. We get the best of both worlds, front side or back side. You'll see in the whiteboard that we can play gaps 2 ways. You can play a gap with your body, or you can play a gap with his body. All right, and then there's a technique that we use. It's a wipe technique that you gotta understand there, but something that we'll talk about here in a second. All right, so here's the wipe technique. So post snap movement. So for instance, we're moving this way. All right, so just say for whatever reason, this tackle is going to the B gap. He knows a wipe is when he gets a down block. If you're ever going to a B gap as a tackle and you get a down block by the tackle, we do what we call is wipe it. All right, we want to wipe the down block. All right, he wipes over the tackle and then works back inside. Now, we still have our end out here. If he wipes out around and works inside, if he gets any type of fullback or kick out, he now has to spill that. He has to spill that outside to his defensive end. And that's what he normally does. He's a tackle. He spills everything if he's unblocked. But just understanding that. Why do we wipe? Because if he's going to the B gap and this guy blocks down on us, that's likely going to be a big crease there. And then our DNs out here, they kick him. They can get a nice seam there. All right, so that's a wipe versus a down block. And here's a good image of it here. I think I got an end zone picture of it. All right, so here we go. Right here. So our tackle's going to the B gap. This tackle blocks down. He wipes around it nice and tight right there. All right. Because he knows he's going, well, this guy's coming here. Oh, we're running our 6-man, so that's our linebacker there. But nonetheless, somebody's coming to that gap. All right. Next one, wipe versus pass set. So now these guys are pass setting. So I'm going to that gap. All right. My tackle pass set.
Here's
and I continue. All right. To rush my gap. Versus pass set defensive tackle, I work back inside. All right. Versus pass set. Defender's shoulder should know they're in high shoulder or low shoulder. So in this case here, he's high shoulder. He's low shoulder being the tackle. Both our tackles are low shoulder guys. Both our ends are high shoulder guys. All right. Here's a picture here. So, again, it's that same double A gap pressure. All right. Now, I know this isn't the full line movement, but nonetheless, this is a short stick by both tackles. They're both going to the B gap. They get a pass set. You see the tackle down here? He's going here. He gets a pass set by the tackle. He's going to continue and rush back in his B gap. Or his B gap. Here's a good end zone copy of it. All right, so he's there. He pass sets. Very good. All right, wipe versus reach. Wipe versus reach. So now we're going here. Offensive line's going there. We're out here. He's going B gap. If he reaches, all right, versus the reach, he's got to work back inside and fight pressure. Stay square. Okay, stay square. Let's go to the end zone copy. So right here, our tackle's working to the B gap. He gets a reach block. So he's going to fight and stay square through that gap. Really, really good. And then the last one is wipe versus scoop. So as I'm going to this B gap, this tackle, it's going to look like a down block, but he's trying to scoop me. All right, I want to, again, just like the down block, work back inside. All right, if it's zone read, I become a dive player. I play the running back. And just like before, if it's any type of kick out, I need to spill that. All right, I need to spill that. All right. So I believe it's right here. So here we get a double team nonetheless, going to B gap. You're going to work through and fight back around that. All right, so this would draw up on the whiteboard. All right, front side or back side. All right, very, very important. So let's look here. We're all slanting. This is all a right call. All right, and we are all going to slant to the left. This is going to be our tough call. All right, tough. So again, he's down. I go butt side. I'm not going to bury myself. You can play the gap with yourself or his body. All right, he's down. I'm going A gap, but I'm not going to bury myself in the A gap. I'm going to go off his butt. All right, this tackle here is going B gap. I'm on my way to the B gap. He steps away. I go butt side, and he's out in his C gap. All right, same picture. They block the other way now. So the front's moving the same way. All right, so defensive end's going B gap. All right. Tackle blocks out. I got to get upfield. All right. I'm crossing face of this guard. I'm in a 3 technique. He blocks at me. I got to cross face. Same thing. I step here. He blocks at me. I got to cross face. And then he's there. All right. So understanding that process of front side and back side, front side and butt side is very important. So here's our first post-snap movement. It's a tough call. Set the front like normal. All right. Then we short stick away from our pre-snap alignment. So this is a right call. Right. Whatever reason it was, we have a tight end there, off the ball tight end. We are lining up in our over front, and we are short sticking one gap to the other side. So we go from an over to an under front. And again, we're using our rules that we just talked about, front side or back side. All right. If he steps at me, I got to cross face. If he goes away, I'm going off his butt. All right. Very, very important. Get that scheme. So here we go. This is a weird set. This is like 32 personnel, 3 backs. It's almost like a wildcat. That's their wildcat back there. 2 tight ends. So our game plan here, they had a high tendency that they would show this, right? And they'd run quarterback here, but a lot of times they'd run counter back. So our game plan was to set the front to the 3-man surface over here, but then we toughed back the other way. We toughed back. All right? So you can see our D-line stem, post snap, and again, we get some free runners there just because they're not used to seeing that post snap movement. And again, based on film study, based on tendency, we had a good idea that they were running counter back. How do we know that? Well, because these 3, when they ran counter, they lined up tighter this way. When they ran quarterback or wildcat stretch, they were a little wider this way. Okay, so studying the film. All right, here's a tough call. This is 4th down and 1. All right, this football team here. All right, everything's even. 2 tight ends with the receiver. So we set the front to the left. But because the fullback was set weak, they had a high tendency to run power. In this case, I believe it's quarterback power the other way. So we set the front there and we called tough. So then we're short sticking this way. We're basically going from an over front to an under front. And this is 4th and 1, big part of the game. Again, we stem, we get a penetration, and we get a big 4th down stop here. Now, if we would have just lined up in an over front, then I think it would have been a different outcome. But a good, cheap way to be able to create some movement, create penetration to do this. All right. The opposite is that we call slash. You can call whatever you want, but set the front like normal, and then we short stick 1 gap to the strength. So when would you want to do that? So we're already in an over front. We have a 3, we have a shade or a G, we have a 5, and we have a 9. But now we're going to short stick to the strength. This is very, very good versus wildcat teams. This is very good versus unbalanced teams, wing T teams that want to overload something. When they overload it and they're going to run there, we slash a lot of the times. All right, nice little change up to have. So in this picture here, this is a wildcat look. They got trips over here, plus they got tackle over, right? Plus they're going to motion, I believe, this fullback over. So they got everybody on their team. They have a 3-man surface, plus a fullback, plus 3 receivers over here. So they got a lot of dudes over to that side. So we're going to line up in our normal overfront. We're going to slash to that. All right? That's among other things. We got to take care of some stuff out here with our Falcon. We got to be able to take the screen game away. But you'll see how if they put people there, we got to get people there. Right? All football is a numbers game. If they line up with dudes somewhere, we got to line up with dudes. We got to match numbers. All right? Good end zone picture of it here. So again, right. We're all slashing 1 gap, 1 gap, 1 gap. But if you look in this picture, good here. So this 3 technique's trying to get in this C gap. But if this tackle blocks away, what he does, he's going to go butt side, which happens. He actually gets across his face. We get some nice run-throughs from the linebackers. And again, creating havoc and the ability to get some cheap pressure, cheap penetration. Again, just not just relying on dudes, but being able to create some movement there and play better defense. So again, those are some pre-snap and post-snap movements that you can add to your repertoire. All right, so here's a little bit of the whiteboard of some of our post-snap movement. We call it tough. So this is a post-snap full line movement. And I have 2 scenarios here of some things that you could see in some ways that we play and a way to steal gaps. Again, when I first started coaching defense years ago, I used to think no matter what, you had the gap, you got to get in the gap. Well, again, there's different ways to play your gap. You can play your gap with yourself, your body, or you can play your gap with his body. So keep that in mind as we go here. So this first one, what a tough stunt is, again, as I'll show you in the slides, or as we saw in the slides, is we set the front like normal. So right here, we'll just say the front set to the right. And for the purpose of this, we'll just put the back there. Regardless, all right, our stunt is we are all short sticking 1 gap away from the call. So this is a right call.
we're all short sticking one gap to the left. All right, so this end is going to go into the B gap, A gap, B gap, and he's already in the C gap. But now we want to read the offensive line and where they go. Okay, so in this picture here, we'll start with this end. He's going to the B gap, but this tackle's blocking down, so we use front side or butt side. All right, front side or butt side. He's going to the B gap, but I just told you, 2 ways to play the gap. We're not going to bury ourselves in there and just get washed down. We're going to step to our gap like we're going there, and if he's down, we're going to go what we call butt side. We're going to go off his butt. We're going to cheek him, go off his cheek, and get vertical. So right there in that picture, who's covering the B gap? Well, that offensive tackle is, because as I'm coming off his butt, I have my hand on him, pushing him into that gap. Same thing here. I'm in a 3 technique, right? My guy goes down. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go off his butt right there. So we got 2 guys unblocked off the edge right there. All right, now, this tackle's going to try to block the 3, and he might get on him a little bit there, but nonetheless, for our purposes of our gap. All right, our A gap player, whether he's a shade or a G, this guy's blocking away. All right there. We're going to go butt side on him. If you would happen to, say, double team us right there, then we got a cross face. All right, depending on what the blocking scheme is. If it's full stretch, well, heck, we're butt side, we're vertical, we're in the backfield. If they do try to deuce us here, then we got a cross face. So again, front side or butt side. And then over here, he's in his gap right there. So we stole 2 gaps right there on the backside. So let's look at that same exact picture, but now they blocked at us. So it's still a right call. All right, still a right call. We're running tough, which means we're stunning. We're going from an over front to an under front. All right, same picture. But now the scheme's coming at us. So still a right call. I don't know, say it's speed option, whatever you want to do. So again, we're all short sticking one gap this way. So he's a B gap player. What's his lineman do? He reads that lineman. He's at me. I got a cross face. All right, short 45-degree angle step. All right, vertical, ripping up through. Right here, same thing. I'm going A gap. What did my guy do? He blocks at me. Boom, vertical. All right, get into my gap. Back here, I'm going to B gap. Reading my guy. He steps at me. Boom, vertical. Off his butt, right there. And then back here, we're in the gap. He's away from us. We play ball like normal. But understanding those techniques, those front side or butt side, one of the best things we've ever done as a defense, as a defensive front, to gain extra hats, to gain 2 in a gap, you hear a lot. Because over here, let's just go back to that first picture. If we're here, we used to kind of cheat. You got to get in that. And the minute we step there and get in the big gap, this guy would just wash us down. And then they have some sort of gap scheme, come back, and they kick it out. There's huge seams there. So a great little technique you can learn if you don't do it already that could really add some oomph to your defensive line movement.